If you're trying to learn animation, you've probably had at least one of these thoughts. Do I need to be good at drawing? What program should I use? How can I animate characters? Where do I even start? I've been animating for 10 years, and if I were to start over from scratch, there's a lot I'd tell my younger self. Things I wish that somebody had told me. In this video, I'll show you exactly where I'd begin, which skills give you the fastest momentum, and what I'd skip to avoid the frustration that I went through. This is where I'd start. I wouldn't start by animating a ball or picking a program. I would start and recommend that you start by watching a scene from your favorite animated film or short. Just by picking 1 to 5 minutes of a clip to watch will give you extreme insight into why the animation is looking good, what it's working, what's not. Let me break this down for you. I personally really like Coco. I especially love the scene from it where Miguel pretty much grabs onto Hector to get him to move faster, and Hector just gets tugged along. Now, this is what I would ask if I was starting over, and if you're going to do this too, this is what you'd be asking yourself after you watched your favorite scene. What do I like about this? Why do I like it? For me, it is that expressive movement, that delayed reaction in the scene that just adds to the comedy of Hector. Now comes the part where you really start getting into building your animation skills. If you are familiar with the 12 principles of animation, great. If you're not, I highly recommend that you watch Alan Becker's 12 principles of animation. It's a standard for anyone who's getting started in animation. I will link that below. But after you've watched it, you're going to rewatch your scene one more time, and you're going to pick out 3 animation principles. In the scene that I just talked about, there is obviously the arc of how Hector is moving to follow Miguel. There's the delayed reaction, and there is the stretch of his entire body. And there you go, your first step into animation, because you're starting to dissect what you're seeing as good animation and being able to apply it into your own pieces when you're ready to start. This is a very low lift way of starting animation. If you've had a hard time starting a hobby or starting to learn something new, because it is so overwhelming to have so many pieces of information of you should start here, you should start there, you need to learn this thing first, and it's very time intensive, and not everybody has that kind of time. But this is a very easy way to start. And once you've picked out what principles of animation you're seeing in that scene that you adore and you can watch it over and over again, then you can now move on to the next step, because you're starting to build this momentum. Before you stop for a day and call it quits, I want you to set a time. Set a time within the next 2 days where you're going to sit down and do your first animation. And I'm going to tell you what that animation is going to be right now. You're going to want to practice the bouncing ball. Yes, it is the most basic exercise, but you're not going to do it the way everyone else says you should. You're going to come at this strategically to build your skills fast. That is the entire point of starting a hobby that you really, really want to grow. This is exactly what I wish I had done, because it would have made things so much simpler. It would have given me so many more skills that I could have applied to all of my current projects. This is how I would do it. Step 1, grab your sticky notes, your tablet. You can even grab some clay if you don't want to draw anything, because the secret to great animation isn't that you draw well or that it's perfect. The secret is that you are able to take something and make it move in a way that makes it realistic and makes people feel things. Step number 2, write the 3 principles of animation that you found in the movie scene you like. Step 3, practice animating your ball with those 3 ideas. Here's a couple of examples from past bouncing balls that I've done that use the principles that I just told you I saw in Hector's action in Coco. Next is step 4, watch the animation that you just made and ask yourself these questions. What's working, and what's one thing you can improve? And it's very, very important that you do the first part as well as the second, because what's working is meant to boost yourself, your ego, because starting animation or any hobby can be very daunting, and you can feel like you're never doing anything right, even when you are. So when you're practicing your first animation, I want you to tell yourself what you're doing right, because you're most certainly doing at least one thing right. It's impossible for you not to be doing something right. And then after that, you can say one thing that you can improve. This is your first animation. You do not have the experience to make a great animation yet, but you are on your way. And the way that you get better is that you're going to repeat this process 10 times with a few little changes, because every single time that you do the next version of this bouncing ball, you are going to take that one thing that you said you could improve on in the previous one, and you're going to try to improve on it in the one that you will do. So for instance, let's say in your first bouncing ball animation, you realize that you could stretch your ball a bit more for more of an impact. In animation number 2, you realize that the one thing that you can improve on is having a smoother arc. So in animation number 3, you're going to do a smoother arc. And you can also still say that you need to improve on it more, but that's how this would almost snowball into learning skills and building on skills and getting better at skills where you find you're lacking in a very almost small, closed exercise that you can easily do again and again and again. I do know that it sounds like it's a lot. I'm not going to lie. It definitely will take time. And I also do know that if you're somebody who's watching this, there is a very good chance that you do not have hours of time to spend on animating. I'm right there with you. I'm at a stage in my life where I have kids, I have a job, and any animation that I do for myself, it's usually done in the wee hours of the morning or at night. So I do get it, which is why these exercises are designed to be lower lift ones. They're meant to happen in 20 to 40-minute blocks. And there's also the fact that you do not have to do all 10 of these animations in one sitting. The goal is to try to do one of these bouncing ball practice animations out of your 10 and every night. And if you can't do every night, that's also okay. Just try to do it every other night, something that would fit with your schedule. But if you're still concerned about staying motivated while you're trying to learn animation, join my email list. I send it and animation tips and tricks for those busy creatives that are trying to do this on the side. We finally come to the last step, which is step 6, where you just watch it all and you see where you started and where you've improved and what your final animation looks like. And then you pick a new animation exercise to try and you focus on the skills that that one's supposed to teach you, and you keep getting better and better and better, and then you can start adding more personal projects of bigger creations. If I was starting over, I would tackle it the way that I just laid out for you, because it's more of a fun, less heavy lift kind of way. It's less animation lessons on every little thing that's going to overwhelm and just feel like you've built a house made out of flimsy material, and when you finally reach the end of the class and you've struggled to figure out how to do all this, you put the weather vane on the top of the house and then it collapses because there's no support underneath. That's what happens if you try to jump into the deep end and you don't try to build things up in a way that works for you. But on the other hand, if you do a simpler approach and you try to build your skills with foundation and basis, it's like you're building your skills out of the strongest material for a house, which is brick. And the reason why I'm talking so much about building basics is because it's the number one mistake that I did make. But I made an entire video on that, so I will link that one below if you want to check that out. And now we get into what frustrated me and likely frustrates a lot of beginners when you are just starting to animate. And these frustrations can lead to wanting to stop and sometimes actually stopping. So these are the things that you should avoid. One is tackling a project with a lot of pieces that you do not know what to do with. For instance, jumping from bouncing balls into character animation. For me, character animation is one of the hardest, but it's also the most rewarding. Creating animations that you can possibly do. But there are a lot of moving pieces from a face, just on the face itself. Character animation has the face, where you have to have front, the 3/4 and side profile and back if you're having your character to the back. You're also getting into expressions that you have to animate. You also will have secondary movement, which is when like hair moves. You're also getting into wardrobe with hats and earrings and accessories. So like I said, the frustration is trying to tackle something without the knowledge that it is difficult and then expecting to be great at it and then feeling like a failure because you tried to do something that was beyond your skill at the moment. You will get there one day where you can make such an impressive piece of animation, but it takes time, and jumping into the deep end isn't the way to do that. But let's move on to the second frustration that beginners should try to avoid. If you practice an exercise, do it once, think you've mastered it, and then move on to the next thing, you're going to find in the years to come that you did not master it and that it has a huge impact while you're first starting to learn animation. And the way to avoid this is actually by practicing the basics again and again and again. But that leads me to the third thing that beginners will fall into the trap of, and that is analysis paralysis. You will be trying to improve on the basics forever, and you never do anything more and get into those skills that you absolutely can grow into and become this great animator. And the easiest way to avoid all three of those frustrations in one swoop is create your own roadmap. On a piece of paper, write down where you are starting from. If you're starting from nothing, if you have a little bit of skill, if you took one class that gave you some basics, put that down on one end of your paper. And then on the other end, note where you want to go. Maybe for you, this looks like you want to be a 2D animator, a 3D animator, a motion designer. Maybe you just want to be able to master characters or create background design. Then you have all this space in the middle of your paper. And that is where you want to focus on which skills are going to get you to this point, which exercises can almost act as a marker for testing those skills so that you can grow into it. Let's say you want to learn traditional animation and you want to become a character animator. I like characters, that's why I keep bringing them up. But you want to be a character animator. So on your roadmap, it would probably look something like, I have no skills, let me practice the bouncing ball. I need to learn how to make characters, which is at the very end. So in the meantime, it's also learning head turn and doing head turns as exercises. It's practicing the principles of animation. It's doing a lot that I don't think I can get into in this video since it would take up so much time. But I hope it comes across clearly what the roadmap can do for you if you're trying to practice animation this year. And if you want more ways that you can learn animation, I do get more into different ways that you can almost set up your own school year for how to learn animation in this video here. I will warn you it's long, but it is comprehensive.